Have you ever wondered if one day a truth suddenly appears in your life that changes everything? What would you do? Would you face that truth with courage or try to run away from it? Today's story is not just a story. It's a feeling, a reality that touches the heart. And maybe somewhere in this story, you might even see a part of your own life. So make sure you watch this video till the end, because the twist that's coming next will definitely make you think. And if you enjoy emotional stories that touch the heart, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments, what would you do if you were in this situation? My name is Dana. I'm 34 years old, a single mom, and an ER nurse. And this is the story of the Christmas that finally broke something in me and somehow rebuilt my life at the same time. If you're watching this right now, do me a favor. Hit subscribe and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I read every single one of them. Now let me take you back to the morning everything started to fall apart and come together in ways I never expected. December 25th, 5:30 in the morning. Most days in my life start the same way. My alarm goes off before the sun even thinks about rising. The cottage I live in sits behind my parents' big colonial house on Burwood Lane. When I say cottage, I mean a place about the size of a 2-car garage. 1 bedroom, 1 tiny bathroom, a kitchenette, and walls thin enough that winter feels personal. That morning, the floor tiles were freezing under my feet. The heater along the wall clicked and groaned like it hated Connecticut winters just as much as I did. I poured coffee into the only mug that didn't have a chip on the rim and leaned against the counter for a second. From the bedroom, I could hear Lily breathing softly. Lily is my daughter. She was 10 that winter. Brown hair all over the pillow, one arm wrapped around the same old stuffed bear she's had since she was 3. The bear's so worn out you can see the stitches in its belly. She got it the day I brought her home from foster care. Back then, she barely spoke. She held on to my finger like it was the only stable thing in the world. 7 years later, she's the bravest, funniest kid I know. She draws constantly. Birds, houses, families sitting around dinner tables. She reads books meant for kids 2 grades older. And every now and then she asks the same question before bed. Mom, am I really yours forever? And every time I answer the same way. Forever and ever. For 7 years, Lily and I lived in that cottage behind my parents' house. Every month, I sent my father $1,100 in rent. Zelle transfer. First of the month. No excuses. I had screenshots of every payment. 84 of them. I'm an ER nurse. Documentation is basically in my DNA. My father always said a lease wasn't necessary. We're family, he'd say. We don't need paperwork. And for 7 years, I believed him. Christmas at my parents' house was never relaxed. It was more like a production. My dad ran it like he ran his bank branch for 30 years. Everything organized, everything controlled. The long oak table would be set for 15 people. Fancy china, cloth napkins folded into shapes nobody actually understands. My father at the head of the table like a king in a catalog photo. My mom next to him. My sister Brooke on the other side with her daughter Harper. Harper was 8. And Harper was the sun my father's entire universe revolved around. Lily and I always sat at the far end of the table, closest to the kitchen door where the cold draft came through. Every year. 2 days before Christmas, my mom called me. Not to ask what Lily wanted for a gift. Not to ask if she needed a new coat. She said, just make sure Lily doesn't wear anything flashy. Brooke bought Harper a really pretty dress, and you know how Harper gets if she isn't the center of attention. I said okay, because sometimes peace feels easier than dignity. That night, Lily stood in the bathroom mirror wearing a red sweater we found on sale. She smoothed the front with her hands and asked me something that made my chest tight. Mommy, do you think I could sit next to Harper at the big table this year? I told her I'd try. I already knew the answer. Christmas afternoon, the sky looked like wet cement. Snow drifted down slowly, the kind that makes everything look like a snow globe. Lily held a rolled-up painting in both hands. She'd spent 2 weeks working on it. It was called Our Family Christmas. She painted everyone. Grandpa, Grandma, Aunt Brooke, Harper, even my grandmother June. Every person smiling. Every person sitting at the same table. She wanted to give it to my dad before dinner. When we knocked on the door, my father opened it. He looked straight at Lily, then past her. Like she was a lamp. Harper ran up behind him, and suddenly his whole face lit up. There's my girl, he said, scooping her up like she was royalty. Inside, my sister Brooke was placing name cards on the table. I looked for Lily's name. It wasn't there. Instead, near the kitchen door, someone had set up a small folding card table. 1 plate, 1 fork, 1 chair. Lily was 10 years old, and she was expected to eat Christmas dinner alone at a folding table. I leaned toward my mom. "Mom, Lily can sit with us, right?" She didn't even look at me. "Don't make this a thing, Dana." Dinner started. I kept glancing toward the kitchen doorway. Lily sat quietly at the card table. Her painting still rolled up beside her plate because she couldn't find the right moment to give it to my dad. Then something happened I will never forget. She stood up, walked to the big table, and slid into the empty chair next to me. She unrolled her painting across the tablecloth. "I made this for everyone," she said. My father slowly set down his carving knife. The room went silent. He walked around the table and stood over Lily. "That seat is for family." I felt my heart slam in my chest. "She is family," I said. He didn't even look at me. He grabbed Lily's sweater and yanked her off the chair. She hit the floor hard. Her painting slid across the hardwood. 14 adults sat there. Nobody moved. Lily looked up at me from the floor and whispered one word: "Mommy." Something inside me snapped into place. I picked her up, grabbed our coats, and said 4 quiet words to my father. "We're done here." We walked out into the snow. In the car, I lifted the back of Lily's sweater. A red bruise was already forming along her back. I took 3 photos, time-stamped. That night, my phone exploded with messages. My mom said I ruined Christmas. My sister said Lily slipped on her own. Not one person asked if she was okay. That was the moment I realized something. I had spent 7 years begging people for a seat at their table, and they never intended to give us one. So I stopped asking. The next morning, my father showed up at the cottage door. He told me Lily needed to learn her place. He said she wasn't even blood. I recorded every second of it. And later that day, I called the only person in my family who ever truly saw Lily as family, my grandmother, June. She listened quietly. Then she asked a question that changed everything. "Dana, who told you your father owns that house?" I said, "Everyone." She sighed. "Honey, that house is still mine. Turns out my father had been charging me rent for 7 years on a house he didn't even own. $92,000, gone. And that wasn't the worst part. My grandmother had created a trust fund for all her great-grandchildren, but Lily's name had never been added. My father made sure of that. That's when Grandma June did something legendary. She froze the trust, made Lily the sole beneficiary, and gave my parents 30 days to leave the house. The fallout was nuclear. Calls, threats, family group texts calling me a liar. I didn't argue. I kept every message, every voicemail, every receipt. And a few weeks later, we all ended up in a community room at my grandmother's assisted living center. My father walked in like he still ran the world. Grandma June sat at the head of the table. Marcus, her lawyer, connected a laptop to the TV. And then, the receipts started showing up on screen. The house deed, the bank withdrawals, the missing trust beneficiary. The room went silent. My father's face drained of color. And my grandmother looked him dead in the eyes and said something I will never forget. "You forgot one thing, Richard. I raised you. I know exactly who you are." Within a month, my parents were gone from that house. The trust was legally transferred to Lily. And for the first time in 7 years, the cottage felt different. It felt like home. Not because it was bigger, not because anything changed about the walls, but because I stopped begging people to love my child. Now Lily asks a different question sometimes. "Mom, do you think Grandma June is proud of me?" And I always smile. Oh, honey, she absolutely is. Because the truth is, family isn't the people who share your blood. Family is the people who show up when it matters. And the night my father pushed my daughter to the floor was the night I finally stopped letting anyone treat her like she didn't belong. And honestly, that was the best Christmas gift either of us ever got.